All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. You're in for a super special treat. I'm going to lay it out for you how in a number of 5 days, our newest agent can write $1.4 million under contract. Stay tuned. You're going to meet Alex Armstrong next on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. Yeah, we got the guarantees going on today, man, and I'm going to tell you something. We are coming in hot, Freeman, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my mercy.
En
fuego, as we say here in Texas. You got it. And I'm just going to dive right into it here. We've got an amazing young man who just joined the Cliff Freeman group recently, and he's destroyed every record that we ever had here on the team. And so I wanted to get him on the show before he runs off and we can't find him again. So without further ado, let's bring on Alex Armstrong. Alex, welcome to the show, my brother.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, we are super stoked. Freeman, have you ever seen anybody like this before?
It's quite the experience.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, and in a short period of time. So
right.
Just to let you guys in the audience know, we're grateful to get Alex to join our team on Friday, right? He finally got his license transferred over. And first thing he did, tell us, what did you get set up in your schedule, Alex, to get rolling? What was the first thing you did?
First thing, when C3 and I were talking, I was like, you guys got Zillow leads. That's how I came across you guys. And so I said, we got to get this set up as soon as possible. And it's been history ever since.
But not only Zillow leads, but you had 3 open houses rocking.
That's a good point.
Your first weekend, right?
That's a good point.
You weren't waiting around for leads to come calling you or anything like that. And then in the course of the weekend, you happened to get what? How many Zillow leads did you get?
Goodness gracious. Well, if we go from when I had the system on and probably through the weekend, I probably had about 7 or 8. So I actually had from Zillow on top of my 3 open houses, I ended up doing 2 or 3 showings. So I ended up literally working, roughly 12 hours on Saturday and then the same thing on Sunday to facilitate all the showings, all the open houses,
right.
And keep things moving. So
Yeah, for sure. And then you and I were on the phone, I guess, until about 8 or 9 o'clock, and I went to bed, and you were still working that contract, and lo and behold, C3 told me the next day that you called him about 10:30 and had that puppy under contract. Is that right?
That's absolutely true. I knew just based on the conversations with, the listing agent and their needs and my clients' needs, it was a great deal. And so it was just down to making sure time couldn't prevent that from happening. Because you know what they say, time kills all deals. And I was like, no, not on this one. This is too perfect. So, I did everything I could to facilitate that. And the sellers loved it so much, they kept calling each other and waking each other up. And before we knowed it, boom, executed contract. So it was great.
That's really crazy. Great. Now, what makes this even more interesting is, tell us, Alex, prior to this weekend, how many real estate contracts had you executed?
That's a pretty easy to come up with here. It was 0. We were at a staggering 0.
0. So when you got your license, you were off like a herd of turtles.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It was painful, to say the least.
And how long have you had your license now?
I've had my license since August 31st. So I'm clearly an expert. Been doing it a long time. Yeah.
Well, what did they say? You only have to close one deal to be considered an expert, right?
There you
Something
go.
like that. A lot of people believe that. But seriously, you had worked at another brand, and what was it like? First of all, let's do this. I want to kind of just go a different direction for a minute, because now that we got the audience all fired up, I'm sure they're thinking that you probably walk on water and can part the Red Sea and do a few other things. But let's go back a little bit and just sort of put this whole picture together and see what it looked like when you were much younger, when you were like growing up and at a young age, what was it like? Where did you grow up, first of all? Missouri?
Yeah. So I grew up in Missouri, yes, St. Louis, Missouri. So very, very proud to come from the Midwest there. And growing up, my mom and dad neither actually have a college degree. So I don't come from some crazy esteemed family and a proven track record. But, my parents taught me at a very early age that if you work hard and you're serious in life, that things come when you need them to. And so my dad ran, a landscape business for over 30 years. And it's because he worked his butt off and he did everything he could to beat out his competition. And he did it for over 30 years on his own. My mom, she's actually been in real estate for over 40 years. She's on the property management side, and anybody who's in St. Louis knows Renee Armstrong, right? She's done an incredible job. She's mentored people to become vice presidents, you name it. So, that's in the DNA. And growing up, that was just part of it. I was taught if you want something in life, there's one way to get it, and work harder than everybody else that wants it. So one thing led to another,
So you kind of come from a family of entrepreneurs. Your dad was started his business, and where did you first realize that you might have inherited some of that DNA?
This might seem like a funny story, but in middle school we had fundraisers, and it was like, hey, at the time I believe it was like selling Coke products, and who could sell the most, and it would help fundraise so we get new gear. So I was like, oh, I want to be the best. So I chased him down, my dad. I'm like, how much can you buy? And then I'm like going down the street to each neighbor, and I'm just like, how much do you want? It's for a good cause. It's for a good cause. And I think that's really the first time it happened. And then from there, one of my closest friends, he actually is an entrepreneur as well. He runs a very well-known gym up in St. Louis called The Haven. And back in middle school, we're trying to sell, the products that we've bought through the fundraiser to other people. So I think it's just like one of those things where you don't know until you get into it, and then you're like, I like doing this. This is a good time. So I think that's where it comes from.
Well, then let's just, for clarity's sake, let's just be clear on this. He's talking about liquid Coke when he was selling liquid Coke in school, right?
Coke products, yes.
Coke products, Coca-Cola, right?
The opposite of Pepsi.
Right,
all
opposite
legal.
of Pepsi.
Absolutely.
Very good. So you had that bug, that kind of, because it's not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. I mean, the road. That's the road less traveled, I would say. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, it's not the easy decision to make because there's so much risk involved in it. But you had the confidence, I guess, because maybe you'd been around your dad and he instilled that in you. Where did you get that confidence from?
I think that's a great question. And I do think, having a parental figure that's engaged in that definitely opens your eyes to the perks. But I think it also comes from, like, if you're an athlete or you come from a sports background, and especially if you make it, from high school to the collegiate level, you're taking a risk, right? You're essentially performing a service to get paid. So for football, it was, I'm putting my body on the line, I'm tackling people, and because I do a good job of that, they pay me. But very similar to a job or anything else, right? Someone could fly around the country, right? You pick a state, could come in and take my job tomorrow. So there's inherent risk to that way of life. And so I've always loved sports. I've always seen, like you said, how my father's built a business. So for me, risk isn't something I sit back and say, what if? Because what if's going to happen anyway. It's just what I found throughout life is those who are willing to take what if and turn it into, a success story or how they overcame it. I was like, it's possible. People have done it before. So for me, risk is, it exists, but it's just, kind of a cost of doing business. You want to evaluate it, but never let it keep you from making a good decision.
Okay. So you've always sort of had this kind of leadership has been, something that I know is in football and other areas. You've been a leader on the team, and you're not afraid to get up and make that first move and do what's necessary to succeed. When was it that you had that kind of, we borrow a term from, the ZMOT. We borrow this from Google. When did you have that zero moment of truth that real estate was your calling?
I think it goes back to the fact that I worked a couple of corporate jobs and I was never happy. I'm fortunate enough to have a fiance in my life that I love dearly, and by all accounts, right, she's the most important thing in my life. And it always hit me. I found the love of my life. How lucky am I? But I never found that in what I did for a living. I was doing what I needed to make it, ends meet, and I wanted to take care of us, but I didn't love that. And I always knew where my mom was with real estate, and again, my dad with having a business, and I was like, that seems like who I am. It was hard to describe. It's like pretending to be someone you're not for years because you have to. And I think when the stars aligned and she was able to find, a great job here in Dallas, and, we had money socked away, it was like, hey, I got to take this shot because I know I can do this. You know, I felt like it was part of who I was. I just hadn't got to be that person yet. So I think that's really where that comes from.
Yeah, well, you know, I haven't really met your fiance officially, but you speak about her, and he told a story over lunch about interviewing with a CEO, and he brought up his fiance, and I'll let you finish the story if you want to, Alex.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it was back in a logistics park in Austin, Texas, and I'm talking with a CEO, and we're just building rapport in the boardroom before one of our meetings, and he's just asking me some questions. He's like, tell me about yourself. So I start telling him about my fiance and the fact that she doesn't just have one law degree, she has 2 law degrees, and she's a 4-time All-American, and, you know, she spent all this time in London. She's been to like 13 plus European countries. I mean, just all this stuff that sounds like I just made it up in my head, right? And he stops me and he goes, is that on your resume, son? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, that's the most impressive achievement you have in your life. He's like, I'd hire you just because you know her. So, yeah, I mean, she's truly remarkable. And a lot of times I really use her for inspiration because, again, she's come through so many hurdles to grow up in Canada and end up practicing in the 4th largest international law firm in the world here in Dallas. I mean, come on, that's impressive. So it definitely gives me some motivation and inspiration.
Yeah, and was it a divine meeting, or how did that actually happen?
I think it's the farthest thing from a divine meeting as possible, right? I mean, we're both very, very strong-willed, and I think that's why we've both been relatively successful in our early lives. And so that sort of personality can either rub off the right way or the wrong way, and it sure didn't rub off the right way to start. We both had these thought processes that the other one was an egomaniac because they'd accomplished a little bit of something. So, you know, that all finally changed on a, you know, fortuitous bus ride to the University of Kansas. We had an invitational meet the KU relays, and I was doing my best to hide. I really was. I had sunglasses on, the headphones on. I was actively trying to pretend that they weren't, she didn't exist and her friend, but they just leaned over the seat and they're like, hey. And 7 hours later, we didn't stop talking. And 7 hours back, we didn't stop talking. And then weeks and weeks and months. And I mean, before you know it, right here we are 5 years later. And it's like we've known each other our whole lives. So it's definitely different. But
and she's got the patience to put up with you.
Oh, yes.
in a real estate career, which is
yes.
If you want to test a marriage or a relationship, get into real estate. Is what.
But you
what
know, I think to that perspective, you bring up a great point. And anyone out there who has family that's in big law or medical, or where they have really inconsistent hours. We just had that talk early on, that we're both very career driven, and she wanted big law. She's wanted that since she's been a little girl. And that's like the upper echelon. Not many people make it into big law. A lot of people can be lawyers, but big law is like the cream of the crop. And she was like, I might be working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I was like, go ahead, I want you to go achieve what it is you're capable of achieving. And she carries that exact same standard with me. So she saw, the first several days I'm working 14 hours a day and we're not seeing each other. We occasionally see the dog, and she's like, I'm so proud of you. Just keep going, keep going. So I think fundamentally having someone like that in your corner makes a massive difference, having that to back you up. So
yeah,
very
no
thankful.
Question. No question about it. All right, so Alex gets his real estate license, right? He's like still wet behind the ears, and he joins a firm, and you had kind of a slow start, I guess. What was your method for generating leads, and how did you spend your time when you first got started in the business?
Absolutely. So when I first started, right, I'd come from corporate sales, and I'd say corporate's quite a bit different than real estate, and I'm happy for that. But in our corporate world, you get leads and you get help and you get assistance, but leads usually aren't that great, right? The numbers are wrong, the emails are wrong. Is that business even a real business? You do some research. No, it's not. So, I had a good buddy of mine who lives out in Virginia, and he told me, hey, you need to get your lead flow up. You got to do it. And I was like, oh, well, I know how to do that. I'm going to get a power dialer. I'm going to make 700 calls a day, and I'm going to do 10,000 calls in a month, and I'm going to know everybody who's doing anything. And I mean, that's how I started out. My perspective of what real estate is and how to build a business quickly was the old-fashioned way. Right? Because most of the people I was speaking with told me that's how you have to do it. There's only one way to do it, Alex. Got to do it this way. Got to do it this way. And I was like, well, it's similar to what I've done before. So I started hammering the phones and started trying to go to as many open houses as possible. But I did not get a lot of traction. Either people don't answer, or it's real estate, right? It's not like you're going to go buy a house overnight. I wish.
Right.
They're not going to do that. So it was rough.
Yeah, it's not like when I started and I was trading stocks and people would trade, as soon as you answer the phone, they're ready to do a trade.
Right.
Housing is a little different.
Just a bit.
So, things didn't really look that promising, I guess. How are you feeling after a couple of months of doing that?
I'll be honest with you. I was upset. Here I'd taken this risk. I told my fiance, here I go. Like, I'm taking my shot. Like, believe in me, I've got this. And the first several weeks, I've got, a handful of people that I have on an email mailer. I don't have any, clients. I don't have really any traction. My pipeline is non-existent. And it's like, what am I doing wrong? I couldn't figure it out, because like, this is the method I'd used for 4 years to make a very good living, and I'm not making a living at all. Nothing's happening. So it was very impactful. And, it really opened my eyes. I was like, I'm doing something wrong, and I need to make a change.
Did it make you want to get out of the business at all?
That's a great question. I like to think I'm a bit more resistant than that. And I was like, you know what, this is tough, but I've been through adversity before. So it just made me need to sit down and say, all right, why did I make this decision? And do I think this decision is going to lead to success, or do I need to make a quick change before I get, stuck in my ways?
Okay. So then you made a decision then to kind of, you just really bootstrap yourself up and go find another place where you could, maybe get a better opportunity. It was at Grant Cardone that said, if you're not dining at the table that you want to dine at, go get a job and serve those that are dining at that table, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you've got to go find the right opportunity. How did you begin your search to look for something else?
Well, thankfully we have Google and beautiful search engines. So I said, you know what? I want to look at people who are bringing in transactions. Let me see who's out there, because honestly, I couldn't tell you what my last group was doing from a transaction standpoint. And so when I did some research, I found a website that listed every team and every brokerage in Dallas, from the small to individuals all the way up to your mega teams. And I was like, I'm going to reach out to the top grossing ones on all of them, right? Someone's got it figured out. I'm going to find home. And I think I spoke with over 25 different people. And I don't hold any punches, and I asked, pretty tough questions. And I kept finding the same thing over and over. Well, our culture. Well, our business plan. Well, we'll teach you how to fish. Well, we do things a certain way. Well, I've been in it for 15 years. Well, I've done it for 25 years. But when I brought up things, like, okay, well, how do agents, that first year take off? Well, our agents will make, 5 transactions. And I'm sitting here thinking, 5 transactions? Really? That's what this proven business model, right? That's rock solid, that everyone should believe in. It's going to give me 5 transactions, and I still have to pay bills. And I've promised my fiance that I'm going to, make this business, and I'm going to do 5 transactions in my first year. There's people doing that in a month. What are they doing differently? And obviously you can say time and experience, but I was like, that's not good enough. If I come in full force to something and I can only generate 5 transactions in a year, then that's not the place I want to be. And so, I started looking outside the box. I was like, all right, these interviews aren't really going anywhere. Everyone in these groups thinks the same, or they want something from me that I'm not willing to give. And so, I was actually on Zillow, and I'm actively looking, because I'm like, I'll spend my own money at this point. I need something besides cold calling for 9 hours a day to get this thing rolling. And this Cliff Freeman group, man, they were at every zip code. I kept looking. I was like, what? Cliff Freeman. What? Cliff Freeman. I was like, well, these guys are on everything. So, and I'd had enough, but I decided I gotta call them. They're doing something over there that I need to be a part of. And sure enough, I called out to the website, and that's how I got in touch with you guys. So it's been an interesting journey from, 25 different people and multiple brokerages and teams that are, really well esteemed, and nothing against them, but that mindset that you guys have here is truly innovation set, and I love it. I'm very thankful to be a part of that, for sure.
Well, we're thankful to have you here. Believe me. I mean, we Clifford and I were joking on the way over here in the car that if we could clone, you
Just
and
make 100 more of
just
you.
create 100 of you, we could just dominate the world here in real estate. But tell us what else changed? What was different? I remember you saying something like, if it's half as good as it sounds, then it's going to be twice as good as what I've got, or something along those lines.
I love that.
But what was it really that you think, aside from Zillow, but what else are you finding that you think will help you really self-actualize and go out there and crush it?
Yeah, I think if I'm transparent, right, I can only take my example and my experience, but if I'm transparent, I like to think that I'm an analytical thinker at the end of the day. And so when I look at the offerings that you guys brought to the table versus anybody else, I was going to have coaching. And in fact, I was joking with C3 at the time, hey, you've got multiple coaching tools. Wait, there's multiple places I can get this? Whereas before, I didn't have anything, and a lot of the agents I know there didn't have anything. So if you're new to real estate and you don't know anything, how are you going to teach yourself when you don't know anything, right? And there's no systems to learn, and other agents are busy, so I was like, what am I going to do? Well, when I came here, we're talking about multiple different systems. Hey, you can go to the EXP world. Hey, we have the mega success factors here. Hey, you've got a performance coach. Hey, you've got 4 other people. And I'm like, stop it. Really? And then, oh, by the way, we have lead flows for you, Zillow, pay-per-click, Google, all these different places. You could get referrals. Oh, by the way, I can still do open houses. And so I'm just sitting here thinking, and I'm like, I'm going to be trained. I've got a consistent lead flow. The business model EXP has, as I grow, is incredibly attractive for an agent that wants to grow and build into a team. And I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, okay, if half this is real, right? If they're just selling me a bill of goods here, right? They're really good at this. They've given this pitch a time or two. If half of this is true, would I make a switch right now? And I was like, yeah. What? I don't have any of these things. So half of that's better than zero of what I have now. So that's really what got me right there.
Well, that's, thank you for the kind words. We do strive to have the best training and the best, create the best opportunity for our agents and so forth. And I want to really thank all the people on our team that make that happen, Rachel and Wally and Victor and C3 and his sister and Britton. We've got a really powerful admin team, and of course, I got to mention Karen, my wife, who does a lot of the heavy lifting. But that's exactly what we tried to create. So it's great to hear those words, and thank you for saying that. I want to talk a little bit about your future. You said EXP you felt was a really great place to build a team and so forth. How has your vision for your business changed in the last week since you got over here?
That's a fantastic question. And I think the first thing that honestly comes to mind is that it's possible. I think it's one thing to set aside thoughts and hopes and dreams and try to build plans, but it's another thing to see the immediacy of hard work and what that can result in. And I think EXP provides a model for those individuals that are part of it to really focus their assets and their technology on helping agents ramp up and really do a great job of making a strong impact in their market. And I think that's a competitive advantage for sure when we look at, the traditional brokerage and the traditional marketplace. I mean, you just think of all the different ways to make income with EXP. And then you think of it, hey, as you begin to build teams, how that continues to add more and more to your, future earnings. It's like, there's just nothing else like that out there. And so to see multiple ways to do that in a quicker pace, it's really exciting. It definitely is.
So, do you see a team in your future? Do you see, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
You're a team guy, man. And we didn't even talk about the stud that you were in college playing football and stuff, right? Let's talk about that for a little bit. You grew up in Missouri. It must have been really, central, America, right in there, just farmland and you guys, what your dad was in the landscape business, your mom was a real estate agent, close, I'm sure you had a close group of friends that you grew up with. And then after high school, you told us that you originally you had your heart set on playing D1 college football, and you had some injuries pop up in high school, right? So you kind of slowed you up a little bit.
Oh boy.
Yeah. What was that like?
That's tough, right? I mean, think of it as a young man, right? We all have hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And, if people ask me who I was, I didn't say Alex Armstrong. I said a football player. So I had a goal. I was going to play D1. I was going to make it to the NFL. I was going to be 1% of 1%. I just knew it, right? And, reality was a different story. And that really started coming to fruition. Junior year, I had a fantastic year, and I accumulated a fair amount of D1 offers from universities, and I was like, great, I'm doing it. It's going to happen. But I was young, and so that means I acted brashly. And so any other schools that came in that didn't fit my criteria, I told them, get lost. You're wasting your time. I'm the next thing. You don't know it yet. I do, right? So sure enough, I'm human, and I joke with people that I'm made of paper mache and a few cracked snaps and a couple really bad, fully ruptured ligaments in my right ankle, and all of a sudden, all those D1 offers just dried up. And then all those other schools that I told to leave, well, they'd already signed other people. They didn't care about me. So, I was stuck in a situation where it was like, well, I've got to pay for school, and I don't want to put that on my parents. That's just wrong. It's my decision. They shouldn't pay for that. And so I was like, I guess the only thing left is to try to find somebody else who'll give me a shot. And, funny enough, the school I went to, Lindenwood University, they offered me my junior year. They're like, we believe in you right now. And I'm like, that's great, but you're D2, and I don't believe in you. And, it's funny how things turn when you get at the end and you're really looking for people you can count on. They were still there. And they were like,
right.
We still want to have you. And I was like, thank you, I'll sign right now. So, yeah, that definitely was a perspective change. I learned a lot from that.
So this powerful mindset that you have, which is kind of, I don't know what you would fear. I can't imagine anything. But did you develop that? Was it sports, or where did that come from?
I think a lot of that, and again, I give a bunch of credit to one of my closest friends. His name's Eric Beisel. And he and I, from a very early age, built a strong friendship. And we had this thing where we'd kind of see who was more mentally tough. And I don't think it was like to prove that we were macho or like how, good we were at anything, but it was like, how much can you endure? And we would keep kind of, up in the ante. And so literally we would do workouts on Sundays in my basement. We would lift as much as we could. We had this big, long, not even fully paved, like gravel driveway through our neighborhood, and we'd carry each other. And we'd run up this hill, right? And this hill is probably, over 800 meters of an incline. And we would do that 4 or 5 times until we started seeing stars. So we did some really unconventional stuff, but to us, that was a fun thing, right? We bonded over that. And I think, he really helped bring that out of me. I think it was always there, but when you have someone there to push you and say, what can you do? Can you do better than that? I think that just built a fire in me where it was like, yeah, I can do anything, no matter how hard, no matter how scary. Let's see, let's get in there and see what happens. So he's a big part of that.
That's interesting you mentioned that. A good friend of C3's and mine, Ricky Carruth, was on the show, almost been 8 months now. And he was talking about how you have to expand your capacity. That's what life is all about. You've got to be able to take on more, right? And really stretch those limits. What kind of things are you into now in terms of self-development? What are you doing to better yourself kind of between the years?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I think the thing that truly separates, the real pros from people trying to strive to that is how much you invest in yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at the top athletes, you look at any top performers, business, life, anything, you pick a spot, they're constantly training themselves, and they have people around them that are constantly training them. So from my standpoint, it's the exact same. If I want to get to the top of the mountain, well, there's people that have achieved that. So, Grant Cardone is someone in my very early sales career I listened to all the time, right? He was telling you sales and how to do stuff with money. And early Grant really came from nothing and built, where he is today, quite an extensive enterprise. And I was like, well, heck, if he did it in his late 20s, I'm right out of college. I can do that. I can do this. I can do this. I mean, he was a very big one. Jordan Belfort. I mean, who didn't watch Wolf of Wall Street and say, I want to be a salesperson? What comes with this?
Does he know about our weekend with Jordan?
I think we talked about it briefly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We actually got to do a mastermind with him. It's almost been 2 years ago now, huh?
Yeah.
I think, something like that.
What an influential person.
Yeah, the straight line sales method. Yeah.
What a book too.
Yeah. The book was
The Way of
crazy.
the Wolf.
The movie was pretty crazy too.
The movie was pretty
I wouldn't
crazy.
mind having Leo DiCaprio play me, if I was
me
gonna
neither.
do the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, if Leo's out there,
He's
he
no
wants
slacker.
to.
Yeah.
That's for real.
Yeah. So that is, and of course, mindset in sports obviously is huge. If you were to build a team of agents yourself, what would the culture look like?
Yeah, I like that. And I think I might be a little bit jaded on the word culture because I've heard it used so many times in ways that to me, culture means really nothing. I've heard it used too much. So for me, I look for what I heard growing up. A good friend of my dad said, when I look to hire, I look for raw materials. I was like, what are raw materials? And he said, raw materials are those characteristics that you can't make them. You have them or you don't. That's drive, that's desire, that's excitement, right? If you have those 3 things, you can do anything because you will overcome and you will be excited to do it. And even when you hit a brick wall, it's just one thing you're going to move past and you're not going to hit that brick wall again. And so I remember hearing that, and I was like, raw materials, that's true. And then I thought, I reflected on people I trust and I admire. And I'm like, they all have those raw materials deep down, and they've built on that skill set since, and that's why, people know who they are and they're successful, but they started off just like that. And that's really where we all start, right? Do you have the desire? Are you willing to learn? Does adversity crush you, or do you conquer adversity? And I think if you have that,
what can't you do? If you put your mind to it, honestly, what can't you do? So I think that's what my team would be built of, right? That'd be the DNA.
Yeah, that goes back to Jordan Belfort. You got to be enthusiastic, sharp as a tack, and be a force to be reckoned with, right?
Yes.
Those are the three keys to to being successful in sales for Jordan. Well, that's really exciting. So, and you're a young man. You're not even 27 yet, right?
Close. A couple days.
Yeah. And I wish, God, if EXP had been around when I was, your guys' age. These two guys are almost the same age. I can't imagine how life would have turned out. But have you thought yet, and you're not even married or a father or family or anything, have you thought yet about what you want your legacy to look like?
I think I have. And, I'd like to think that although I'm not, far along in years, that as far as like where my mind is at, the maturation of my brain is far exceeding my actual age. And I do think about that stuff all the time. I mean, you could probably ask my mom and dad. I've been talking about, building wealth and a financial future since I was a kid. And people are like, that's weird. What do you teach him? Why does he talk like that? And they were like, we don't know. It's just who he is. So honestly, my legacy is this, and if I could make this, as simple as possible, it would just truly be, I want to achieve the highest levels of success possible. And people will ask me, well, why is that? Well, we live in a world where finances control freedom. And I want to be as financially free as possible because it's, my duty, it's my obligation to take care of those who've taken care of me. My fiance has done more for me than really any human I've ever met, excluding my mother and my father. My mother and father have given me everything that they can possibly give me. So, that starts there. I need to take care of them. And then I look at my immediate circle of people that I trust and I care about. And I'm like, if I'm successful and they're not, that's not a legacy. That's just a single person who did a good thing. So for me, my legacy would be not only taking myself to the highest, accord, but bringing all of those that have helped me get to that point to their highest levels as well. And I think that's a life worth living because you can sit back and say, yeah, he was good at one thing, and yeah, he did this, but look what he did with those around him. He cared about more than himself, and I don't think we talk about that enough in society. It's about someone's success or what they were able to do by themselves, but who did they impact? What lives did they change in the process? And for me, I want to do that in the highest absolute degree possible because that to me is success.
Mm-hmm. So success, you mentioned financial freedom.
Yeah.
We always talk about in our group the three freedoms that we really pursue. That's financial, time, and location freedom. That's I guess, Tony Robbins, I'm going to throw something on top of that, and that is Tony Robbins says that the top of, when you get to the top of the world, living is being able to give without expecting anything in return, right? So, this whole sort of, profit motive that we have. I mean, there's a good book that I'm just getting ready to crack. I think it's called How to Make a Hell of a Lot of, how to make a big profit without going to hell or something like that. Anyways, it's all about, there's nothing in the Bible that says, making money is bad. It's what you do with it, right? Yeah. That, how you impact the world. Is there anything do you have any BHAGs or any big, hairy, audacious goals that you want to accomplish any time in the next 5 or 10 years?
I'd say in the next 5 or 10 years, they may not be as big as they would be long term. I mean, if I look at my 5 and 10 year plan, I mean, it's essentially this. I want to get in the 1% as fast as possible. And the reason for doing that is, again, you beat me to the punch, is to help others. I mean, I come from a blue collar family, but yes, we had an entrepreneurial background, but there were so many things in this life I had to figure out from scratch. And there's people much more talented than me and much smarter than me and probably have almost as much charisma, maybe not as much, but almost. And to be able to be in a position to help and support them and to give them the guidance and the things that they need to achieve their potential, I'm not sure how I could necessarily formulate that as far as like into a goal, but any chance I get to mentor, I think in 5 to 10 years, I would love to have essentially an LLC or an entity where it's literally all into mentoring those right out of college or right from high school, right into college, to really help guide people. Because if I look at society, people go to school and they don't have a purpose. They don't know, but how could you, right? Or at that age, who knows really what they're going to be?
True.
And so to provide at least guidance, for those who do know, and for those who are maybe unaware of what they could really achieve, and to provide some sort of system to help them get to that next step, that to me would be, again, a massive source of fulfillment, because seeing people succeed to me is sometimes just as good as me succeeding myself. And so to be able to facilitate that in a 5 and 10 year span, I think is a bit early. But if I could make that happen, that would just be, a game changer for me.
And that's such a huge opportunity. There's so many, I hate to say this, but there's so many people that come from broken families that don't get the support. They don't have the father figure or the mother there to support them and so forth. And that's really a noble idea for you to do that. I wish you the best for that. You're a heck of a driven guy, and like I said, I don't think much is going to stop you from what you want to do. But I got to ask you, just what do you do for fun?
I've been asked that a time or two, and I don't know if what I do for fun is considered fun. Honestly, it depends. I like to work out. I'm obsessed with eating and healthy living, so I'm always diving into, different textbooks and what's going on with, food, diet. I got a couple of friends who are in the chiropractic world, so they're constantly sending me like medical journals and like research. So I'm probably not your typical what do you do for fun guy, but I also love to let the fiance come out and say, all right, there was an Oktoberfest thing. She's like, let's go do this. And I'm initially like, no, I've worked, I don't want to, but going to see local things around the city and going and interacting with people is also a pretty good thing. So whether it be health and fitness, whether it be working out, or whether it be hanging out with the fiance and taking kind of the tour around town, that's what I like to do when I have some spare time.
Yeah, and you mentioned that your fiance has been to 13 European countries.
Yeah, she's a traveler.
So she likes to travel. Have you guys traveled much?
So funny enough, the really only time we've got to travel before COVID came and kind of messed everything up, I got to take my parents, her parents, we all got to go together to Scotland and England, and that's where we're from, right? If you trace us all the way back through our lineage, that's where my family comes from. So that's really the last time we got to really travel like that. When we talk about, getting married, our next audacious trip is to go to Bali to get married, and we've already kind of sent that through the grapevine to all the families, like, hey, make sure you're ready.
Destination wedding.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So we're excited.
Love that. And wow, C3, I don't want to take all the
it's all good. It's
here,
been a great show so far. So
yeah,
I've been enjoying it right here. This is the best seat in the house.
You do have the best seat in the
Yes, it
house,
is.
no question about it.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions at all for Alex or?
Not really. Just super excited to have him on our team, and we're creating a long-term friendship. So just excited to be in business with him ultimately, and I think he's just laid it out today. So
Yeah, no, and I totally feel the same way. We have a small. We don't have we're not striving to be the biggest for sure, and we just really love having good quality people who have big hearts. And I got to tell you, man, for a 27-year-old, that's a pretty old head you got on your shoulders there.
That's why I'm gray.
Yeah,
I did notice a little bit of gray hair there.
Yeah, long story short, when I was a kid, I got strep a whole lot, and it stressed my body out real good. So I've had silver since I was 4. So
Is that right?
You said strep,
strep throat. I'd get it like twice a week. Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was rough. My mom. That's why I got my tonsils removed when I was really young. So it did its damage. I've been a silver fox since 4, so it is what it is.
There you go. We were just talking. Also, last Friday was when we had our team meeting at Topgolf, and we rolled out the new CRM system, Follow Up Boss, Call Action, Hatch systems, and we did that. And then you actually got out and got to hit a few golf balls. And did I understand correctly that was the first time you'd ever swung a golf club? Or?
It's not the first time I've ever swung a golf club, but to say it's probably a handful of times, I think is pretty safe. I defer to someone like C3 who actually knows how to swing a golf club to that.
Hey, we're going to work on that swing, all right? You have the power. We just got to get you dialed in.
Yeah, I think so.
But, I mean, you can tell a natural athlete, though, when he gets up there and without even hesitating has this natural looking, a little baseballish, but very strong grip, but he gets there and almost knocks it over the fence his first rip at it. So that was pretty incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys, you said that you and your fiance, COVID kind of threw your plans off a little bit, and so when's the big date? Have you guys Bali? But have you guys scheduled it officially? Or?
Yeah, so it's hard to schedule it officially because right now Bali, really anywhere near Malaysia and that part of the world is really being affected by COVID, and it's unfortunate for them more than just for our selfish reasons of wanting to go, but they've kind of put on restrictions, taken off restrictions, and it's really fluctuating. So they have typhoon season as well. And I don't know about you guys. I don't want to get married in a typhoon. I've thought about it, but now I'm okay.
Yeah.
So, there's a set time of year you can go. And so we're trying to make sure we can do that. And then again, in respect to her job, she puts in just as many hours as I do. So it's like, all right, let's try to find a time where my world's cooling down. It's not the end of the quarter. Typhoons aren't happening, and COVID's relaxed a little bit. So we're looking at roughly next August. That's kind of the date we're throwing around to everybody. So fingers crossed, right? We can control what we can control. So I'm hoping for that to pan out. But next August would be our ideal time.
Well, that's awesome. That'll be a great time of year too. But let's schedule it around Tony Robbins. We're going to have him back at the Gaylord. Want to make sure you go to that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excuse me. So, how we doing on time? I think we're getting pretty close, aren't we? Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you is I want to go back a minute here, and I don't know if the audience realizes the magnitude of what you've done this weekend, but you executed a $900,000 contract.
Yeah.
And a $500,000 contract within a matter of just a few days here of coming on board.
Yep.
That's incredible. In the audience right now, we have people who are watching who are either contemplating getting in the real estate business or they've gotten in the real estate business and they may not be seeing that success that they really want to see. Based on what you've experienced in the last 3 months, I want you to lay down some good advice for those people for us, will you?
I think I can do that because honestly, I came from that very spot myself, right? So I would say to anyone who's thinking about getting into real estate, if you have had any sort of sales background, great. Leverage that to the fullest. You already have an idea of what it takes. But for those of you who don't, at the end of the day, all sales is having a very, very professional conversation, injecting some charisma and some personality, and not being afraid. You're going to say dumb stuff. All of us up here have said things before in meetings where we're like, why did I just say that? But at the end of the day, you got to fail. Because if you don't fail, you don't learn. So go out there. Don't take yourself too seriously. Help people out. Don't go out there with the thought process of how much commission am I going to make, or how is this going to benefit me? Ask people what they need and let that drive you. If you're a person who cares about other people, this job will be perfect for you. It will be like your normal everyday life because someone's going to come to you and say, hey, I'm looking for my dream home. I need your help. I want to be near my family. And you're going to facilitate that. You're going to take that and make it a reality. So when they're walking around inside that house and they're thinking about Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's and Halloween and all the birthdays to come, you're going to be a big part of that. So let that be your motivation. You're going to change lives. So no matter how afraid you are in that current moment, you're one conversation away from changing someone else's life and honestly changing your own. And that to me is the biggest reason to get up and get after it. There's nothing stopping you. You just got to push through it. And if you think you're in the wrong situation, talk to those closest to you. They know you the best and say, hey, is this it for me? Do you think I can do more than this? And most times they're going to believe in you. And if they do that, take that next step. Look outside of it. I mean, use me as an example. I thought I had it figured out, and I found out very quickly I did not. And with one quick change, life has fundamentally, completely blossomed for me in a whole new light. So I think that would really be my advice if I had to, sum it all up.
Wow. I hope you all wrote that down. Okay.
What you're saying, that was stronger than
Yeah, that's the timestamp on the YouTube thing that you want to send it to your friends right there, it's at that minute mark. And would you agree, Alex, that people get commission breath and they focus on the money, but isn't it true that the money is just a measure of how well you're serving others?
I think that's the best way to say it, because at the end of the day, I mean, the money's not really an extension of what you've done, right? That's your client funding that transaction. And so you've just essentially helped them and take care of them. So walking around and pretending as though you're some level of importance because you helped someone out, that would be like going to a charity event and asking everyone there to, acknowledge you for how charitable you've been. So I mean, at the end of the day, we're in this business to take care of others. And we're fortunate enough they pay us to do it. But that's not why you should do this business. Absolutely. You should do this so that you're helping those families in your community, that you're making a difference. And everything else after that is just icing on the cake, at least in my opinion.
Okay. Let's do a little rapid fire. You want to do that?
Let's do it.
All right.
Take a shot.
Alex, what's your favorite book?
Favorite book? Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink.
Wow. Why do you just tell us a little bit about it?
Well, Jocko Willink, Navy SEAL, all about extreme ownership. It might be actually a battle between the dichotomy of leadership and extreme ownership. He literally says the highest performing teams on earth only fail if leadership fails. And that's how they treat it in the Navy SEALs. And it's so true. If you're in a position of leadership and you don't take full accountability, those around you will never take accountability. So hearing someone who's gone through some of the most outlandish, difficult tasks you can humanly go through and come out the other side and dominate corporate America and have podcasts, that's inspiring, right? That's way deeper than just real estate or, sales or what have you.
Wow. What to give us? Who are your thought leaders that you follow in real estate?
My thought leaders, well, it's funny enough you mentioned Ricky Caruth. I got turned on to him earlier on in my career. I'd heard some Grant Cardone, and that definitely got me excited. So I'd say those are probably the two I've listened to the most to in real estate.
Okay. Have you ever thought about commercial real estate?
When my mom watches this, she's going to be yelling in the background, why aren't you doing commercial real estate? Yes, I have. But to me, I left corporate, and to me, commercial is corporate. I want to be interacting with families. I want to be in neighborhoods. I want to be with the kids. I want to be with the pool. I don't want to be chasing down CEOs, asking them if they're going to buy a $4 million complex. Could that change? Yes, right? As we age, some things change, but I'm happy to work with families, and I want to work with families. They can still be CEOs, but I just want to talk to them as friends and in families trying to find that dream home.
Okay. If you could buy any car in the world, what would it be?
Honestly, not a big car guy. I drive a Honda, and then whether I make, what I make now or I make, 12 times that, it'd still probably be a Honda Accord Sport. I like them. Just simple guy.
What's your biggest vice?
Ooh. My biggest vice is probably something silly like salty food with way too much grease and pizza and stuff like that, That's probably my biggest vice.
Did you ever have to go to the principal's office when you were growing up?
Honestly, no. I think I got in my fair share of trouble, but I was smart enough to avoid getting caught.
C3, you got any for him? I'm telling you.
Come on, hit me with something.
When are you going to start your podcast?
When am I going to start my podcast? After I've done enough in real estate to be able to have a real podcast.
Oh,
Man,
my gosh. Yeah, I think he's
you got to have one.
he for sure is.
Let
no
me prove
question
myself first.
Yeah. So, and we are really toward the end of our allotted time here. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that we should have?
I mean, you guys have done a great job as far as, questions. And off the top here, we've talked about a lot of good stuff. I think the only thing I would end on, would be a personal note, whether it be injuries or life not going the way that I thought, adversity is something that's been a core in my life. And I think for those people out there who've gone through adversity, that's the biggest superpower out there. And I don't think we realize that until we reflect on it. If you've been through hard times, if you failed, if you've had hopes and dreams fall apart, that doesn't make you a loser, it doesn't make you a quitter. It means you've gone through things most people can't fathom. And if you can harness that and just go into the next thing, you'll be amazed at what that does to your life. And I think I'm a testimony of that. I didn't let adversity overcome me, I overcame adversity.
I would not question that a bit. No, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, from the voice of success right there from Alex Armstrong, no kidding. And I mean that. And we're so excited to be in business with you. It's great. I can't wait to see where you're going to be, in another 6 months,
right.
year,
Give me another week.
2
We'll
years.
see what happens.
See what happens next week. It's going to be crazy, I'm sure. But Alex, thanks for being in the show, on the show today, and we really just are thankful to be here to work with you and see you grow, man. It's wonderful to watch, just in this short period of time.
Powerful.
And C3, what do you think?
I got a new
man?
best friend. So this is
New best friend.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
At least you got a client for golf instruction anyway,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
But I do
sure.
need you to get shorter. This C3 is much taller than he looks on this production. I just want everyone to know that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you filled up your legal pad today and ran out of ink, because I got to show them this. Is it here?
Yeah.
I got ink on I had a pen blow up in my
little
before the show. I had to go ahead and let everybody know we're vulnerable here,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It
No,
happens.
absolutely. We're people.
Happens in the
Books.
best families for sure. But anyway, you guys, thank you for being tuned in today, and share this with your friend. Show us the love. Hit the the like and the love buttons, and let us know what we can do. If you have anything you'd like to see on the show, any particular topics that you'd like us to cover, please just give us a heads up. And Alex, if anybody out in the audience wanted to reach out to you just to maybe ask you some off-the-record questions or something like that, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me would be my cell phone number. So I'm going to do the audacious thing and go ahead and put it out there. 314-717-9943. It's on my hip, it's on my wrist, and most times it's in my hands with my laptop. They're all connected. So shoot me a text, call me, whatever. If I'm not busy then and I can't speak, just, hey, we'll talk. If I am busy, just leave me a voicemail. I'm a human being. I'll get back to you when I'm not showing a house, and we'll have a good conversation.
All right, give us the number one more time, just in case I didn't
absolutely.
write
It's 314-717-9943.
Okay, appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, C3, we're headed for a road trip this weekend.
We are a little Alabama A&M football.
Yeah, we're going to join Elizabeth Riley and Terrence
Gene.
Murphy, Gene and Susan Frederick, Little Sweet and Kyle Field, and see who's going to mop up with whom.
We already know how this one's going to go.
Do we?
Yeah. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Alabama might as well be an NFL team.
Yeah.
I think they are.
Yeah.
They probably, yeah. I mean, I remember back in Nebraska, Nebraska was dominating and
Right.
stuff like that, but Alabama's just, man, they're
And we
something.
lost. Texas A&M lost her starting quarterback.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
That'll be tough.
It's going to be tough,
It
but it'll be
happens.
loud. I'll
But
tell you
we're going to
what.
have fun.
Yes.
We're
There
going
you
to have
go.
a good time.
Most
So,
definitely.
never been to Kyle Field, and I just I reminisce about the days at Rice when the Rice Marching Owl Band got hauled off the Kyle Field and the food service trucks because we were, I think, making fun of the mascot, I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
Little
or something.
father-son rivalry.
Yeah. But I'll wear an
Okay.
A&M shirt this time, I promise.
Do you hear that? Okay.
Yeah, you
I
got
she'll
it.
do that
All
for me.
right.
All right.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys again so much for being here. We'll see you next Wednesday. We're going to move the show up a day because I got to head to Napa with my daughter. But we'll see you next Wednesday on Cliff's Notes. Thank you. All right, folks, tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I dare you!